been like, the creative act involves expression, and expression comes from experience. It comes from, you know, our soul desiring to connect with others. AI doesn't have any of that. It doesn't have a soul, doesn't have a desire to connect. It's and so when, you know, if we leave it up to, if we start to replace humanity with machine, in this new way, I think that it can really open up a series of problems. Antigua et Nova is really good about putting it in its place, and keeping it there. I think that's the framework I think you have to approach it with.
Lorenzo, Dave, thank you so much for being with us today on this first day of the Builders AI Forum, to talk about how AI is changing Catholic storytelling. Maybe, Dave, if I could start with you.
Everyone has, you know, their own reasons for telling stories, especially to Catholic audiences and all that kind of stuff. But we kind of arrived around three, you know, important, really the transcendentals, which are truth, beauty, and goodness. You know, we want to tell the truth about the evangelization of the gospel. We want to make sure it's accurate. It's the right thing, right? We want to make sure that it's beautiful, that it's aesthetically pleasing. It's actually, you know, meeting people's standards when it comes to what, you know, what we expect from whatever media it might be. And then, you know, that there's something that's happening that's positive and developmental for the person who's actually encountering this, whatever the story is, right? That we're being good stewards of our audience, actually, in a way. You know, the classic example there is of social media, right? Where we're just, you know, it's like, it's been proven now that this is a fairly unhealthy thing for kids and even for adults. And I struggle with this because I do social media professionally and I use it a little bit personally. And, you know, and there's a tension there between, like, you know, is this something which is it better to participate in this thing that's not necessarily great, so that there is a faith component available for people? Or is it better to just remove ourselves entirely and hope people kind of follow suit? It's difficult. But anyway, these are some of the things that we were grappling with today.
Just a reality check for our audience. Lorenzo, when you look at AI today, like, what can it actually do practically in film today?
Yeah. I mean, we're still in this time where AI it's advancing like crazy. Like, there's a new update and there's been some new drops recently with Sora and whatnot. But you know, for us, I think that the main thing that we're seeing in AI is its advantages in VFX. So, like, if there's a big, you know, like right now we're in front of a green screen, there's things you can do with AI that make it a lot more cost efficient. There's also, I've had friends that have full English movie that have dubbed the voices in different languages to make it more accessible, which is pretty crazy because you could literally take my voice and then change it to like Mandarin or Italian or French.
And the lips change too. It's not just
Yeah. No, it's nuts.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nuts. So, like, things like that, you know, I think the old school filmmaker in me, it's like, you know, I still really appreciate, like, we do animation and I really love hand drawn 2D animation, but we are seeing with AI a lot of efficiencies with, you know, development work where we could, you know, get some comps that we want to create a show like this, and then we'll take it to a storyboard artist or an animation artist and give him the look and feel with the tone that we've generated from AI. So we, you know, our company is utilizing a bit of AI. We're not geniuses, but we're trying to learn and see what others are doing and how to find the balance. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And when you, I mean, there's people talking about like script generation, you mentioned translating, editing, animation, and I've spoken to a few friends in Los Angeles who, you know, they say that it's hard for them, you know, at the time the industry's definitely going through a switch. Do you do you see something like a full on AI film studio?
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit at the forum. In my experience on what we're doing, I see that more on in the meantime, I see that living more on short form platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. As far as you know, bigger budget projects for like studios and streamers, I don't see it moving that direction anytime soon. But I think that'll be an asset for, there's a lot of, it's in the trades. Like if you look in Deadline today, micro dramas are sort of popping up. And I think there will be some investment made into the micro dramas, and that AI studios can develop things for that particular distribution platform.
Mm-hmm. And how do you guys see, kind of, I guess, more the traditional secular media using AI in its aggressive modes, and also just experimenting it? And how do you see that differing with the Catholic or Christian audiences in Christian entertainment and film?
I mean, AI usage is getting more and more prolific with everything, right? I think I heard a stat today that 60% of commercials of the biggest companies are now being using
in Canada
are now using AI to create the commercials, and that when studying it, that I think that there has been 0% less intent to buy based on based on the ones based on those commercials using AI to be generated.
Yeah.
And so it's actually like not even if the company is just motivated by the bottom line, right? If it's just a greed-based revenue model, let's be honest, calling it what it is, right? Then how could you not, right? You'd be if you answer to your shareholders and that's all they care about, then you'd be irresponsible not to do that, right? And so how does that differ from the Catholic world? It really depends on the creator, right? There's no thankfully, I think it's a good thing actually that we have agency like this. It's not like the Pope says something and now everyone who falls in line exactly with however we approach. We're talking about art, right? Or at least we're talking about creativity, and so it really depends on the person. I think responsible AI creators or responsible AI users, let's say, are thinking deeply about what is lost, both from the not just from the product standpoint of what's created, but from the process standpoint of what the artist is maybe not going through as they type in a query or a prompt, rather than actually kind of grapple with the crucible of making art.
Where do you feel that the AI could be actually enhance the creative aspect of this versus being kind of you offload that responsibility? It's almost a crutch. You kind of
my mind first goes to variety of experience. So let's say in the ideation stage of a project, you are just talking through, you're brainstorming what do we want to do for this particular scene or this particular project or whatever it might be, and you're getting the input from the people that you directly work with, and that's a beautiful thing. That's person to person, and it's as unmediated as as work can get, between people. But you only have available to you on your little team whoever happens to be there, right? And it's unlikely that you have a Finnish person, and it's unlikely that you also have a sister. You just may want a lot more perspectives, and so I think that's one virtuous thing about AI, is to be able to, in the brainstorming process, to be able to pull perspectives that you're just not going to have access to otherwise.
Yeah, research data, like you could research things a lot better, depending on which AI system you're using. But I think there's also the moral aspect of looking at the encyclicals like Rerum Novarum and figuring out the Catholic approach to treat AI like with an artist and enhancing it. Because I mentioned this at the forum today. You could use AI to storyboard out stuff or get some concept art. But at the same time, you could, I have friends that are Catholic storyboard artists or Christians, whatever denomination it is, and they have children and they have a wife. And, I feel called to, lean towards that direction of if I need a quick fix, I could easily, go on AI. But if it's something, where I can spend more time with the development or the storyboards, I would love to invest in other people.
Absolutely, yeah. How do we go about kind of seizing this moment of transformation, which feels unique, and go about making that ecosystem of Catholic Catholic studios, Catholic distributors?
I mean, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is just relegating tools as tools and keeping them as tools, right? And even the term tool is a little bit crude. AI is so sophisticated, right? And we're way beyond Guardini's definition of what a tool is, where this is certainly a machine or beyond, maybe. But I think that's important because it can augment, but it shouldn't replace what a human should be doing, right? And that's, going back to what you said earlier, Ben, like the creative act involves expression, and expression comes from experience. It comes from, our soul desiring to connect with others. AI doesn't have any of that. It doesn't have a soul, doesn't have a desire to connect. And so when, if we leave it up to, if we start to replace humanity with machine, in this new way, I think that it can really open up a series of problems. Antiqua et Nova is really good about putting it in its place, and keeping it there. I think that's the framework I think you have to approach it with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love that. And if I ask and point to the Builders AI Forum, what are you guys most excited about?
Yeah, no, I think it's just encouraging to see other people wanting to come together to throw out ideas, and I think disagreement is good. So I think it's good to that all of us are having healthy debates. So it's very encouraging for me to see other people. There's people here that are entrepreneurs investing in AI. There's filmmakers. There's journalists. So it's really encouraging to see all sorts of people come here to talk about how the church can be at the forefront and guide. I really think there's a great encyclical by Pope Pius the 11th, I believe, Vigilante Curia, which talks about cinema and media and journalists, and it sort of gave them the guidelines. And I think there would be a nice, if there could be a nice encyclical like that, where it gave them the guidelines to how to implement AI and use it for the good. So yeah, it's crazy times we're living in.
But people are coming from all different places, and you're right. There's a lot of healthy discussion and debate. One voice was like, "Hey, the only thing we have to fear," I mean, not to quote FDR, but basically the fear of using it. This is someone who is really bullish on AI. But when it comes down to it, you can get them into play. That person, you can get them into places where he'll say, actually, this is really worrisome in areas because of the potential for heresy at the extreme, but just wrong. Just like any tool.
But like, what is real?
Yeah, what is real? Yeah, like we're heading into an area where Blade Runner doesn't seem that sci-fi anymore, right?
Deep fakes.
Oh my gosh.
Deep fakes are bad.
One thing that I kind of signposted this earlier, like one of the things I've been struggling with is just this idea of like what is the value of people scrolling on social media? Like
you're really hitting hard on that tonight.
You
got some backlash.
And rightly so, because like I can see both ways. I mean, look, I currently do this professionally. Yeah. Like I am part of what might be a problem. And that's what I'm trying to grapple with, is like, is it better, to play the game? So because here it's not as innocuous as it seems, right? Like, yes, people can post and people can look on, let's say, Facebook, right? Let's say you're just scrolling through your Facebook or your Instagram or whatever your flavor is. Yeah, it seems innocuous enough, and okay, maybe you're using a little more data in these offshore data centers that you aren't even thinking about. So there's an environmental toll that you're not thinking about, and whatever. There's that, but when you really play the game, as a brand, and you're trying to reach your audience, when we post, I'm not looking for people to just keep scrolling. Like my goal is not Facebook's goal, right? I'm not here monetizing your eyeballs. As when we post as the Diocese of Brooklyn or whoever we're working with as in DeSales Media, I'm posting because I'm trying to get people to take a step in their journey somehow, right? Their spiritual journey. And so if that's the larger point, then I'm almost always trying to link off. It's not just watch this and move on. When you post next to your link, these walled garden companies make it almost impossible for your own audience who signed up to watch your stuff to even see it, right? The algorithm takes it from like 4% chance to like 1% chance just by including a link. Okay. And why do they do that? Because they know they're going to lose the eyeballs if you succeed at this call to action. And so what can I do? I can take out an ad and pay them up front, so that I'm basically like paying them to allow me to remove this person from your walled garden. It's like, so you lose either way. And why am I trying to help, Meta get bigger? Like that doesn't advance the church's cause. And I don't even know if what I, it's just, so it's fraud.
But it seems that we would hit kind of an existential cliff, that if the church isn't there on this pastoral level, and if we're not there as Catholic storytellers really pointing to that we could be in really, serious problems.
The world kind of came to this inflection point at it's obviously Pope Leo XIV choosing that name was all about, the Industrial Revolution and what he sees as the next revolution, right? And the world was at this inflection point at the end of that Industrial Revolution, right? Like around, I don't know, let's say 1920s-ish, like maybe a little before. And the world needed to decide, like, okay, we have all this time back from what the machines are now doing that the people used to do. And we can either lean into that and say, all right, let's give people like a break. Let's use this time for recreation and like develop the person, or let's lean into greed and just make people work just as much as they always have, if not more, so that we can raise those GDPs and all those, the signals that we use for wealth, which is really greed, right? And of course, the world chose that, even though the church was trying to lead us the other way. And so, so like in some ways, I do think that the idea of unearned time off sort of thing, like there is a dignity in work, right? Absolutely. And so people do need that. At the same time, I don't even know if we're going to be given that choice, because I think the world is going to continue to pivot toward greed. And I think that this is just going to be another way to be even more efficient and spend, and make even more and spend even more. It's just, I think it will be, I mean, just look at who's running the largest models, right? These are, Anthropic seems to be a little more trustworthy, but it's not, it's still coming from a place where, all right, we raised 70 million and we're going to have to pay it back, like that's.
I think that's where you need to really start thinking about your, and my brother and I have been speaking about this a lot, our family rule of life and family legacy, because there's going to come a point where, like what you said, is everything's going to be automated. But if what you're building in your family and what you're building in your business can sort of combat those temptations of leisure and just automate everything, it starts with the family, and the family is the building blocks of society. So if you branch out from that network of like other good entrepreneurs and other good families, you can start creating your own ecosystems, and that starts at a local level, right? On, principal subsidiarity. And I think that's what is, I think there's going to be like the pendulum's going to go the other way. I think it's going to go this way with AI and technology and everything, but I think there's going to be like a renaissance of people wanting to get back to the land, people wanting to learn the ancient crafts. And so as much as we could utilize AI and its advancements, which, there's some good there, I think there's also going to be a balancing act of people wanting to have a simplistic way of life and also build family legacy and pass down these things to your children and talents to your children. At least that's what we're trying to build in our family and our company. And we're trying to like include our children at the dinner table and talk about future and what we're trying to build as a family. And so those are the little things we're working on to combat the craziness of life and technology.
And I wonder, when you guys, Dave, when you're working in social media, and then Lorenzo, of course, in film, when you guys are crafting your stories, when you're crafting your messages, are you guys changing it a little bit when you know that person, might just spend 30 seconds on it and it will be doing it alone, versus that thing of, cool, we have that, summer blockbuster movie. We're gonna have that opening weekend. Everyone, the grandparents to the 6-year-old, everyone's coming. Versus now, it seems very micro. Okay, this is the audience. The 30 seconds, cool. We got this many impressions. It seems a different sport.
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would say the answer is yes and no. We are trying to play the algorithms game on social media specifically, and there's ways to do that we know. Not only is it got, it has to be less than 30 seconds on this particular platform, but also it's got to be square and whatever. There's all these kinds of things. But we're trying not to always do that, right? We have a podcast we recently launched called Religion to Reality, shameless plug, and where we let ourselves go, right? We're not constrained by a time limit, and some of the episodes are almost an hour. right? And and I think there's a place for that, right? As long as we recognize like who our audience is. And so, yeah, so I think it's yes and. I think it's both.
Yeah, for us, I mean, for us, it's either, are we going straight to the streaming platforms, or is this something that is worthy of theatrical audience or theatrical film? So it's both and. Obviously, as a born in the '90s, the best experience is going to the films.
Oh my gosh,
The
yeah.
theaters, and so that's always
Big
our
family
first
popcorn.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, can we get the movie? And there's such a beautiful experience, in the theaters. So our preference is, yes, we want to go theatrical, but it's risky these days, and you just have to have a very smart business approach to, if we go theatrical, what do we need to do to break even, or make X, Y, and Z, and then there's more opportunities on downstreaming rights, where you have the first pay one windows where you can start making more revenues, and the second re-upping the licensing, etc. So it really depends on what your focus is and what your goal with that individual asset is.
Lorenzo, if I may, I mean, this might be impossible, but like, if you look at the film industry now and you look, let's say, I mean, it's hard, but like in 10 years, I mean, what do you hope it'll look like in 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, cool. That's a tough question. In the next 10 years, I hope there's more platforms, distribution platforms. There's obviously, you have, the big Warner Brothers, Lionsgate, everyone, and you have companies like Angel Studios. But I think there needs to be more Angel Studios. I think there needs to be more better access for content creators to have distribution. So I think in the next 10 years, if there's more distribution platforms, but also young people learning learning filmmaking. And that's one of our goals, is to, have interns and shepherd people where we can build not just filmmakers, because there are great film schools, but also how to be an executive, how to pitch something, how to raise money. I think we need young executives to build them up into higher positions. So the next 10 years, our goal is to, train the next generation, but to also have content for multiple different distribution platforms.
Beautiful. What are your final hopes, I guess, for this conference, and what do you hope people then take out of it and go out into the wider world with this energy?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow we're going to be covering kind of what we think the guardrails need to be inside kind of the Christian storytelling and media community. What does that look like? Like, how can we avoid the risks, basically with AI? Because we want to be able to use this tool responsibly, but what does that look like without knowing really what the future of this is, right? If you haven't read, I've said this today earlier, I'll say it again. If you're a parent and you haven't read Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation, you need to, because it basically proves why we shouldn't have adopted social media before we understood really what was going to happen because of it. And I'm worried about AI in that same way. So these guardrails are super important. And then after that, what are the next steps? Like, what do we actually hope can come next? And one of the ideas that's been thrown out there is some kind of manifesto that allows us to kind of put our point of view out there on what we think good Christian storytelling consists of, aims to do, and how does it do that?
Yeah, I completely agree. Some guardrails, and also I would just say executing, having prudence with everything that you're doing, so that way, I mean, your eternal salvation comes first. So like, looking at AI through the lens of, is this good for my soul? Will it help me get to heaven? Will it, and then sort of branching out that towards business, towards family life. So just really, I hope everyone has, caution, because it's scary. So for me, that's what I'm hoping comes out of this forum, is like, the extreme prudence on how to apply this to your life and to your business.
Lorenzo, Dave, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's very inspiring.
Thanks for having us,
Yeah, thanks for having us. Grazie.